The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered 300 worlds. They had crushed every species that stood against them. Their warships were the size of mountains, and their armies numbered in the billions. When they arrived in a new star system, civilizations fell to their knees and begged for mercy. In the summer of 2347, 2,000 warships entered the Sol system. They came in a formation that blocked out the stars. Their hulls were black and covered with weapons. Their engines burned with blue fire that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a... His gray scales were marked with the scars of 100 battles. His yellow eyes looked at the small blue planet on his with something close to boredom. "Begin the transmission," he ordered. His voice was sent to every radio, every television, every communication device on Earth and its colonies. Billions of humans heard his words at the same moment. "I am Admiral of the Empire. Your species has been deemed worthy of service. You will surrender your weapons. You will kneel before the Empire. You will obey or you will be destroyed. You have 24 hours to submit. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy for those who resist." The transmission ended. Turned to his second-in-command, a younger named. "How long until they surrender?" asked. Made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "They always surrender within the hour. Prepare the occupation forces." On Earth, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, the United Terran Command Center was filled with activity. Officers ran between stations. Screens showed the alien fleet from every angle. Alarms beeped and flashed. Commander Jake stood in the center of it all. He was 43 years old, with short gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He had served in the Terran military for 20 years. He had fought pirates near Jupiter and rebels on Mars, but he had never seen anything like this. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Amy Sutter, walked up beside him. She was younger than him, with red hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her green eyes were fixed on the tactical display. 2,000 ships, she said quietly. Initial scans show weapons that could crack a planet open. Shields stronger than anything we have. Sir, we're outnumbered and... Jake nodded slowly. He looked at the alien fleet on the screen. He thought about his daughter who lived in Chicago. He thought about his parents who had a farm in Kansas. He thought about every man, woman, and child on Earth who was looking up at the sky right now, wondering if they would live to see tomorrow. "Get me a line to that fleet," he said. Amy hesitated for just a moment. Then she nodded and worked at her console. A few seconds later, she looked up. "Channel open, sir." Jake stepped forward. He stood straight and clasped his hands behind his back. "This is Commander Jake of United Terran Command. I received your message, Admiral. I have a response for you." On the Eternal Dominion, raised one scaly eyebrow. It was unusual for a species to respond so quickly. Usually, they spent hours arguing among themselves before sending a groveling plea for mercy. "I am listening," said. Jake's voice was calm and steady. "You have entered our home. You have threatened our people. You have demanded that we kneel." He paused. "We will not kneel, not now, not ever. You have 24 hours to turn your fleet around and leave our system. If you are still here after that time, we will open fire. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Silence fell over the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Stared at where the human commander's face had been. For a long moment, he did not move. Then he laughed. It started as a low rumble and grew into a roar that echoed through the bridge. His officers looked at each other in confusion, then began to laugh as well. "Did you hear that?" said between laughs. "The humans have threatened us. They have given us a warning." He wiped a tear from his eye. In 300 conquests, no species has ever responded like this. They are either very brave or very stupid. Stepped forward. "Admiral, perhaps we should take this seriously. Our intelligence on the humans is limited. We do not know what weapons they possess." Waved his hand dismissively. "Look at them, they have 300 ships. We have 2,000. Their technology is primitive. They have only been traveling between stars for 2 centuries. They are children playing at war." He sat back in his command chair and looked at the blue planet on his screen. "But perhaps you are right. Perhaps we should teach them a lesson. Send 20 destroyers to their colony on Mars, destroy one city, kill a few million of their people. That should remind them of their place in the universe." "Bode, as you command, Admiral." Back on Earth, Amy looked at Jake with wide eyes. "Sir, did we just threaten an alien empire with 2,000 warships?" Jake walked to the window of the command center. Through the thick glass, he could see the rocky walls of the underground chamber. Somewhere above them, the alien fleet waited. "Yes, we did," he said. "Do you think they will take us seriously?" Jake turned back to face her. There was something in his eyes that Amy had never seen before. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something harder and colder than either of those things. "No," he said, "they will not take us seriously. That is their first mistake." He walked back to the central console and began issuing orders. Across the solar system, human ships powered up their engines. Hidden weapons platforms came online. Soldiers checked their equipment and said goodbye to their families. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for a long time. They had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. They had built telescopes and sent probes into the darkness. And when they discovered that the galaxy was full of empires that conquered and enslaved, they had started to prepare. They built weapons in secret. They trained armies in hidden bases. They developed plans for every possible threat. The empire thought they were coming to conquer children. They were wrong. Jake looked at his officers, at the men and women who would fight beside him in the hours to come. "Send a message to all commands," he said. "Tell them to get ready. The war for humanity begins today." Destroyers broke away from the main fleet and headed toward Mars. Each destroyer was half a kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and missile launchers. Any one of them could reduce a city to ashes in minutes. Together, they could burn an entire continent. Sub-Admiral commanded the squadron from the lead ship. He was young and eager to prove himself. This would be his first taste of real combat, though he expected it would not be much of a fight. The humans on Mars had no warships to protect them. They were helpless. "Time to target," he asked. 4 hours at current speed, Sub-Admiral, his navigation officer replied. Settled into his chair, he imagined the fear that must be spreading through the human colony right now. They would be watching his ships approach, knowing that death was coming for them. Some would try to run, others would hide. None of it would matter. On Mars, in the capital city of New Olympus, Governor Gregg stood in his office and watched the alien ships grow brighter in the pink sky. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a thick beard. Before becoming governor, he had been an engineer who helped build the first permanent settlements on the Red Planet. He knew every tunnel, every building, every system on Mars. His assistant, Park, rushed into the office. She was young, barely 25, with short black hair and worried eyes. "Governor, Earth Command is ordering an evacuation to the underground shelters," she said. "They say we cannot fight those ships." Greg did not look away from the window. "How many people live in New Olympus?" "About 3 million, sir." "And how many can fit in the shelters?" Was quiet for a moment. "Maybe 200,000. Greg nodded slowly. "So even if we evacuate, millions will die." He finally turned to face her. "No, we are not running. Get me a communication link to those ships." Stared at him, "Sir." "Do it." She hesitated, then ran to the communications console. A few minutes later, she looked up. "Channel open, Governor." Greg walked to the console and looked at the screen. The face of Sub-Admiral appeared, gray and scaled, with cold yellow eyes. Human said, I assume you are calling to beg for your lives. It will do you no good, but I will listen. Greg smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Actually, I am calling to give you a warning. You are entering the weapons range of our planetary defense grid. Turn your ships around now, or we will destroy you. Blinked, then he laughed. You have no weapons that can threaten us, human. Your colony has no military vessels. You have nothing but domes and tunnels and frightened civilians. You seem very sure of that, Greg said. I am sure. Our scans show no threats. Greg leaned closer to the screen. Your scans are wrong. I am going to say this one more time, and I want you to listen carefully. Turn around. Leave, now. If you come any closer, you will die. This is not a bluff. This is not a trick. This is a simple statement of fact. Cut the transmission. Foolish creature, he muttered. Continue on course. Charge all weapons. We will destroy their largest city first. The 20 destroyers flew on toward Mars. They entered the planet's orbit and began their final approach. Below them, the domes of New Olympus glittered in the sunlight. Smiled, target the central dome, fire on my command. His weapons officer nodded, weapons locked. Opened his mouth to give the order. He never got the chance. Deep beneath the Martian surface, 18 weapons platforms came to life. They had been built in secret over the past 50 years, hidden in abandoned mines and underground chambers. Each platform housed a magnetic accelerator 3 kilometers long. Each accelerator could fire a tungsten rod the size of a car at 15% the speed of light. At that speed, no shield could stop them. At that speed, the kinetic energy of each rod was equal to a small nuclear bomb. The platforms fired. 18 rods of tungsten screamed up through the thin Martian atmosphere. They crossed the distance to the ships in less than a second. There was no time to detect them. There was no time to react. There was no time to do anything at all. 11 destroyers simply ceased to exist. They did not explode. They did not burn. They were there, and then they were clouds of expanding debris. The tungsten rods punched through them like bullets through paper and continued on into the void of space. Watched in horror as his ships died around him. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted. His own ship shuddered as a piece of debris struck its hull. Raise shields, he screamed. Evasive maneuvers. The surviving ships scattered, their pilots panicking. Some managed to get their shields up. Others were too slow. The second salvo hit. 3 more destroyers were destroyed. The remaining 6 limped away from Mars, their shields flickering, their hulls torn open in a dozen places. His own ship was venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. Half his crew was dead. Retreat, he ordered. All ships retreat to the main fleet. The 6 surviving destroyers turned and fled. Behind them, the people of New Olympus watched their escape from the observation domes. There was no cheering. There was only grim satisfaction. In his office, Governor Gregg watched the alien ships disappear into the distance. Stood beside him, her face pale. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Gregg shook his head. We won the first battle. The war is just beginning. He turned to her. Send a message to Admiral. Tell him that was his one warning. If he sends more ships, we will destroy them too. On the Eternal Dominion, Admiral received the message. He also received the report from Sub-Admiral, who was barely alive aboard his crippled ship. 14 destroyers destroyed, hundreds of crew dead, and the humans had done it without using a single warship. They had done it with hidden weapons that should not exist. Sat in his command chair and stared at the red planet on his. For the first time in his long career, he felt something cold in his chest. It was not fear, it could not be fear, he had never felt fear. But he looked at that planet, and he wondered what else the humans had hidden away. He wondered what other surprises waited for him in this system. He thought about retreating. He thought about leaving these strange, dangerous creatures alone, and finding easier prey elsewhere. But then he thought about what the Emperor would say. He thought about his reputation. He thought about the shame of being defeated by primitives. No, he would not retreat. He would crush these humans no matter the cost. All ships, he ordered, his voice hard. Prepare for a full assault on Earth. We will end this. The fleet began to move. Admiral called a council of war aboard the Eternal Dominion. His senior officers gathered in the tactical chamber, a large room with walls covered in screens showing maps and data. The mood was different from before. There was no more laughter. There was no more talk about easy victory. General, commander of the ground forces, was the first to speak. He was older than, with scars across his face from battles fought centuries ago. "This changes nothing," said, his voice like gravel. "We lost 14 destroyers. We have nearly 2,000 ships remaining. The humans got lucky. They will not be lucky again." "Lucky?" said Commander, who led the intelligence division. She was smaller than the others, but her eyes were sharp and missed nothing. "They destroyed our ships with weapons we did not know they had. That is not luck. That is planning." Snorted, "They are primitives. They have been traveling between stars for only 200 years. What can they possibly do against us?" Pulled up a file on the main screen. It showed images and data about humanity, collected over the past few months by scouts. "Let me tell you about these primitives," she said. "In their short history, they have fought thousands of wars against each other. They have invented weapons that could destroy their own planet many times over. They have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and disasters that would have killed most species. And through all of it, they kept fighting. They kept surviving. They kept getting stronger." She changed the image to show a human city. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Vehicles moved through streets. Millions of people lived their lives, unaware they were being watched. They call themselves the most dangerous species on their planet. They hunted their largest animals to extinction. They changed the climate of their entire world. They split the atom before they learned to live in peace with each other. Looked around the room. "These are not primitives, General. These are predators, and we have just entered their territory." Slammed his fist on the table. "Enough of this fear. They have 300 ships. We have nearly 2,000. We will crush them with overwhelming force. It is simple mathematics." Had been silent until now. He sat at the head of the table, his yellow eyes moving from speaker to speaker. He thought about what it said. He thought about the hidden weapons on Mars. He thought about the human commander who had threatened him without any fear in his voice. "Commander," he said slowly, "what do you recommend?" Hesitated. "I recommend caution, Admiral. We should study the humans more, learn their weaknesses, find out what other weapons they have hidden. A slower approach would be safer." "Safer?" laughed bitterly. "You want us to hide from these creatures. The Emperor sent us to conquer them, not to study them. If we delay, we will look weak. Other species will think they can resist us too." Several officers nodded in agreement. The reputation of the Empire was at stake. They could not be seen as afraid of a young species with only 300 ships. Closed his eyes and thought. Part of him wanted to listen to. Part of him felt that cold sensation in his chest again, the one that was not fear, but was right about one thing. The Empire could not appear weak. The Emperor would never forgive him if he retreated from such a small enemy. He opened his eyes and made his decision. "We will attack Earth directly," he said. "All ships, full assault. We will not give them time to prepare more surprises. We will overwhelm them with numbers and firepower." Smiled, looked away, her face troubled. "When do we attack, Admiral?" asked. "Now. The humans gave us 24 hours. We will not give them 24 hours to prepare. We move immediately." The officers stood and saluted. They left to prepare their ships for battle. Soon, only and remained in the chamber. "You think I am making a mistake," said. Looked at him. "I think the humans are more dangerous than we understand. I think they have been preparing for this longer than we know, and I think many of our people will die today. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see his fleet stretching into the distance. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, the greatest military force in the galaxy. Perhaps you are right, he said quietly. But we are the Empire. We do not retreat. We do not show weakness. We conquer or we die trying. Bowed and left the chamber. Stood alone, watching his fleet prepare for battle. In a few hours they would reach Earth. In a few hours the war would truly begin. On Earth, Commander Jake received word that the alien fleet was moving. He stood in the command center, surrounded by his officers, and watched the enemy ships on the tactical display. "They are coming faster than we expected," Amy said. "They will reach Earth in 6 hours." Jake nodded. He had hoped for more time, but he was not surprised. The aliens were angry about Mars. They wanted revenge. "Is everything ready?" he asked. Amy checked her console. "The fleet is in position. The trap is set. All ground defenses are online. The evacuation of major cities is." "How many people can we get underground?" Amy was quiet for a moment. "Maybe 40% of the population. The rest will have to shelter in place and hope for the best." Jake thought about those billions of people, families hiding in basements, children clutching their parents, old people praying to whatever gods they believed in, all of them counting on him to protect them. He could not save them all, he knew that, but he would save as many as he could. "Open a channel to the fleet," he said. Amy nodded. "Channel open, Commander." Jake looked at the camera. He knew that every human ship, every soldier, every pilot was listening to him right now. "This is Commander. In a few hours, the largest enemy force any of us has ever seen will arrive at our doorstep. They think we are weak. They think we will break. They think they can take our home from us without a real fight." He paused, letting the words sink in. "They are wrong. We have spent generations preparing for this day. We have built weapons they cannot imagine. We have trained for battles they think we cannot win. And we have something they will never understand. We have a home worth fighting for." He pointed at the screen showing Earth, blue and green and beautiful. "That is our world, our people, our future, and I will be damned if I let anyone take it from us. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. Today we fight, and today we win." He cut the transmission. Around him the officers were silent. Then Amy smiled. "That was a good speech, sir." Jake did not smile back. His eyes were fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. "Let us hope I get to make another one when this is over." Fleet came like a storm of black metal and blue fire. Nearly 2,000 warships spread across the void between Mars and Earth, their weapons charged, their crews ready for conquest. Admiral watched from the bridge of the Eternal Dominion as the blue planet grew larger on his. "Enemy fleet detected," his sensor officer reported. 300 human vessels holding position between us and Earth. Studied the tactical display. The human ships were small compared to his. Their formation was tight, protecting there like a thin wall of steel. "They are brave," he admitted, "but bravery will not save them. All ships prepare to engage." On the bridge of the United Earth, Commander Jake watched the alien fleet approach. The numbers on his screen were terrifying. Nearly 2,000 ships against his 300. By any reasonable calculation, this battle was already lost. But Jake had never been very good at reasonable calculations. "Enemy fleet entering weapons range in 4 minutes, said Lane, his tactical officer. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was scared. He could see it in their eyes, but they were not running. They were not giving up. They were ready to fight. "Signal all ships," Jake said calmly. "Execute Maneuver Sigma." The human fleet began to move, but they did not move forward toward the enemy. Instead, they scattered. Ships broke formation and flew in every direction. Some dove toward Earth's atmosphere. Others raced toward the asteroid belt. Some flew straight up, away from the plane of battle. Admiral watched the human ships disperse with satisfaction. They flee before us. Their courage has failed at the last moment. He leaned forward in his chair. All ships pursue and destroy. Do not let any of them escape. The fleet spread out to chase the fleeing human vessels. Their tight formation broke apart as ships accelerated after different targets. Destroyers chased human frigates toward Jupiter. Cruisers pursued carriers into the asteroid belt. The Great Armada became a scattered hunting party. It was exactly what Jake wanted. Weeks ago, when long-range sensors first detected the fleet approaching, humanity had begun to prepare. Every mining ship, cargo hauler, and construction vessel in the solar system was given a secret mission. They hauled material into space and left it drifting in what looked like random debris fields. Old satellites, broken station modules, junk from decades of space exploration. Hidden among the junk were 200 weapons platforms. Each platform was crude and simple, designed to be used only once. Each contained a nuclear warhead surrounded by special rods that would convert the explosion into focused beams of radiation. Scientists called them nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers. Soldiers called them Hellmakers. The fleet flew directly through the debris field without slowing down. Why would they? It was just garbage. Their sensors showed nothing dangerous. Their sensors were wrong. 200 platforms activated at the same moment. 200 nuclear weapons detonated. 200 beams of invisible death lashed out across space. The ships had no warning. Their shields, designed to stop plasma bolts and missiles, could not block focused radiation. The beams cut through metal like it was paper. Ships exploded. Ships melted. Ships broke apart into spinning fragments. In the first 3 seconds, 64 vessels were destroyed. Admiral felt his ship shake as debris struck the hull. Alarms screamed across the bridge. On his, he watched his fleet die. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Where is the attack coming from?" "Unknown, Admiral. The weapons seem to be everywhere." More ships exploded. The fleet was in chaos. Commanders shouted conflicting orders. Ships collided with each other as they tried to escape. The carefully planned assault had become a nightmare. And then the human fleet attacked. Jake brought the United Earth around in a hard turn. His voice was steady as he gave the order. "All ships reverse course and engage. Show them what we can do." 300 human vessels stopped running and started hunting. They flew back into the chaos of the fleet with their weapons blazing. Rail guns hammered enemy shields. Missiles streaked through the void. Plasma cannons painted the darkness with fire. The humans fought like nothing they had ever seen. They used asteroids as cover, hiding behind rocks and shooting at exposed enemies. They flew through the wreckage of destroyed ships, using the debris as shields. When their weapons failed, they rammed their own vessels into enemy hulls. Captain Nate Perkins commanded a small frigate called the Defiant. His ship was barely 100 meters long, tiny compared to the cruisers. But he flew it like a demon, weaving between enemy fire, striking at weak points, always moving. "Target that cruiser's engines," he shouted to his crew. "Take out their propulsion." The Defiant's rail guns fired. The cruiser's engines exploded. The massive ship began to drift, helpless, and another human frigate finished it off with a missile barrage. On the United Earth, Jake coordinated the battle. He moved ships like chess pieces, sending them where they were needed most. When a human vessel was damaged, he ordered it to retreat. When an enemy ship was isolated, he sent hunters to destroy it. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and death and destruction. 6 hours of courage and sacrifice and rage. When it was over, 1,100 ships were destroyed or disabled. The void around Earth was filled with wreckage and bodies, and the frozen remains of what had been the greatest fleet in the galaxy. The human fleet had lost 118 ships. Thousands of soldiers were dead, but they had won. Admiral sat in his command chair and stared at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. Half his fleet, destroyed by a species that should have surrendered without a fight. General was dead. His transport had been among the first ships destroyed in the ambush. Commander was alive, but her cruiser was badly damaged. Most of his senior officers were dead or wounded. The Eternal Dominion itself had taken heavy damage. Entire sections were open to space. Fires burned on multiple decks. The once mighty flagship was barely holding together. A communication request appeared on his console. It was from the human flagship. Hesitated, then he accepted. Commander Jake's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired. There was blood on his uniform and burns on his hands, but he was smiling, a cold and terrible smile. Admiral Jake said, "I believe your 24 hours are up. You are still here." His smile faded. "That is going to be a problem." Said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I am going to give you 1 hour to collect your surviving ships and leave our system," Jake continued. "After that, we come for you. And Admiral," he leaned closer to the camera, "we will not stop until every last one of your ships is dust." The transmission ended. Sat alone on his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his crew, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. The remnants of the fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system. Fewer than 800 ships remained from the 2,000 that had arrived with such confidence. Many of those were damaged, trailing smoke and debris, their crews exhausted and terrified. Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dominion and looked back toward the distant sun. Somewhere near that yellow star, the humans were watching, waiting, ready to destroy him if he gave them a reason. He had never felt like this before. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had never known defeat. He had never watched his fleet be torn apart by an enemy that should have been helpless. He had never stood among the ruins of his own arrogance and wondered how he had been so blind. Commander found him there, staring into the void. Her uniform was torn and burned. A bandage covered half her face where shrapnel had cut her. "Admiral," she said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth, from their government." Did not turn around. "What do they want?" "They want to negotiate." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Negotiate. After everything, they want to talk. He finally turned to face her. "Very well, put them through." A holographic screen appeared in front of him. The face that looked back at him was not Commander. It was a woman, older, with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes that seemed to look right through him. Text beneath her image identified her as President Cole of the United Earth Government. "Admiral," she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I understand you have had a difficult day." Scales flushed with anger. "You mock me." "No, I am simply stating a fact. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your army is scattered. Your invasion has failed completely." She paused. "I am offering you a chance to leave with what remains of your forces. Take your ships, go back to your empire, and never return to our system." "And if I refuse?" President Cole smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "Then we will finish what we started. My fleet is already preparing for another attack. We have more weapons hidden throughout this system that you have not seen yet. And I should tell you something about humanity, Admiral. We hold grudges for a very long time." Thought about his remaining ships. 800 vessels, many damaged, all exhausted. The humans had 300 ships remaining, but they were fresh from victory. They had momentum. They had confidence. And apparently they had more hidden weapons. He thought about what would happen if he refused. Another battle, more ships destroyed, more of his people dying in the void of space. He thought about the Emperor, waiting back home for news of conquest. He thought about the shame of returning in defeat. He thought about his own pride, wounded and bleeding. But pride would not bring back the dead. Pride would not rebuild his fleet. Pride would not change the simple fact that the humans had beaten him. "If I leave," he said slowly, What guarantees do I have that you will not attack us? President Cole shook her head. None. You came to our home and threatened to enslave our people. You killed millions of us. We owe you nothing. She leaned forward. But I will tell you this. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We do not want your empire. We do not want your worlds. We only want to be left alone. Leave us in peace and we will leave you in peace. It is that simple. Studied her face. He had met many leaders in his long life. Most of them had been weak, frightened, eager to bargain for their lives. This woman was different. She spoke from a position of strength, not weakness. She was offering him mercy, but it was clear she did not need to. Why, he asked, why offer me this chance? Your people must want revenge. Some of them do, President Cole admitted. But I am not interested in revenge. I am interested in survival. Every ship we destroy today is a ship that cannot threaten us tomorrow. But every ship that leaves in peace is proof that humanity can be reasoned with. Other empires will hear about this day. They will learn that threatening humanity is a mistake, and they will learn that we can be merciful when we choose to be. She stood. Go home, Admiral. Tell your emperor what happened here. Tell him about our weapons and our soldiers and our will to fight. And tell him that if anyone threatens humanity again, we will not show mercy a second time. Was silent for a long moment, then he nodded. We will withdraw, he said, but I have a question for you, President Cole. Ask. How did you know we were coming? How did you have so many weapons prepared? We gave you no warning. President Cole smiled again. This time, there was something almost sad in her expression. We have been watching the stars for centuries, Admiral. We found evidence of your empire long before you found us. We saw what you did to other species. We knew you would come eventually. She paused. Humanity has always been afraid of the dark, of the unknown, of the monsters that might be hiding in the night, so we prepared. We built weapons. We trained soldiers. We made plans for every possible enemy. She looked directly at him. You were not our first enemy, Admiral, and you will not be our last, but everyone who threatens humanity will learn the same lesson you learned today. We do not surrender, we do not kneel, we fight, and we win. The transmission ended. Stood alone on the observation deck for a long time. Then he turned and walked back to the bridge. All ships, he ordered, set course for Imperial space. We are leaving. No one argued. No one questioned him. The fleet turned away from Saul and began the long journey home. On Earth, people emerged from their shelters and looked up at the sky. The battle was over. The aliens were leaving. Humanity had survived. In the command center beneath the mountains, Jake sat down for the first time in 20 hours. Amy Sutter brought him a cup of coffee and sat beside him. We did it, she said quietly. Jake nodded. He thought about the ships they had lost, the soldiers who had died, the families who would never see their loved ones again. We paid a high price, he said. But we won. Yes, he looked at the screen showing the alien fleet retreating. We won. President Cole joined them a few minutes later. She looked as tired as Jake felt. They are leaving, she said. But this is not over. They will tell others about us. Word will spread across the galaxy that humanity cannot be conquered easily. And then, Amy asked. President Cole looked at the screen showing Earth, blue and beautiful against the darkness of space. Then more will come. Enemies we have not yet imagined, threats we cannot predict. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, and we have just announced our presence to everyone in it. She turned to Jake. Commander, I want you to begin planning for the future. More ships, more weapons, more defenses. We have won one battle, but the war for our survival will last for generations. Jake stood and saluted. Yes, Madam President. She smiled, a real smile this time. But first go home, see your family, rest. You have earned it. Jake nodded. He walked to the exit, then stopped and looked back. Madam President, do you think we can survive all of it, everything that is coming? Cole looked at the screen showing their planet, their home. the world that had given birth to a species stubborn enough to stand against an empire. I think humanity has been surviving against impossible odds since we climbed down from the trees, she said. I think we will keep surviving until the last star burns out. She met his eyes. They tried to intimidate us. We scoffed. And that is what humanity will always do. We will face our enemies. We will fight. And we will never ever give up. Jake smiled. Then he walked out into the morning sun, ready to face whatever came next.